What they do, what it is, it's Orion aka Brass Balls bringing you another installment of Deep Dive Tape Stash. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel Orion Hip Hop where you can peep previous episodes of Deep Dive Tape Stash, dope obscure demos you may or may not have ever feasted your ears on, music from yours truly, crazy remixes I've done, and a lot of other things within hip hop culture that we all love and hold dear to our hearts. Now, in this one, we're gonna go back to New York, so get your flippers on your feet, because we're gonna take a dive in the cold, frigid Hudson River with this one. And I'm talking about the promo sampler tape for Politics and Bullshit, the album that was brought to us by Frankie Cutlass, one of the most underrated, dope producers in hip-hop. And this album to me is a classic. Got so many bangers that I'm gonna get into. The tape itself features 6 of the 11 tracks from the album. All of them are stellar bangers like I just mentioned, and we gonna get into that right now. But what this tape also does is interview Frankie Cutlass in between, showcasing the snippets so that you can get a little familiar as to who Frankie Cutlass was. Going back to 1996-97, putting the whole time in context, this album was kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, because if you remember in that time, soon after this album dropped, you had an album from DJ Muggs of Cypress Hill drop Soul Assassins, Prince Paul dropped Prince Among Thieves, and you had Pete Rock later with Soul Survivor. So you had compilations dropping that were with the producer as the main focus. Of course, prior to Frankie Cutlass, you had Marley Marl with his albums. So this tape cassette I've had for years. Prior to having this tape, I already had the album because I had heard so many of the songs from this album on an underground station. I want to say it was 91.7 FM. But when I was in high school, I want to say it was 98, 99. I was at my dog Johnny P's house, Johnny Perez. He had a bunch of tapes, and this was one of them, and he actually gave it to me. So I've had this in the stash for a very long time, since high school. When I decided to do this deep dive into it, I pulled it out. To my surprise, the tape had popped, and I don't remember it popping on me, so I don't know when that occurred. But I decided to, restore the tape, repair it, because it was worth it. This is, like I said in the video that I did, there's a previous video on my YouTube page where I documented myself repairing this tape, and it's because this tape has the nostalgic value of the bangers it holds, and it also the sentimental value that it came from my dog Johnny P, and he's no longer with us, so rest in peace to Johnny P. Frankie Cutlass in the interviews touches on a bunch of things, like the first interview on the tape, he touches on the album title, where that came from. Second one, he bigs up DJs, and mixtapes were really huge in New York. Throws a little salt, because apparently DJs weren't giving him enough love when they were playing these tracks, you feel me? The interviewer goes into a bit of his history and how Frankie Cutlass came from the notoriety he got from a hit single, which was Shake What Your Mama Gave Ya. Not to be confused with the Poison Clan's Shake What Your Mama Gave Ya. Frankie Cutlass's version was much more New York. Another track he was responsible for prior to this album was Akinyele's second single, Fuck You For Free, off of that EP that had Put It In Your Mouth. And so right off the gate, Frankie not only had some accolades and credit to his name, but no slouch on the beats. And also another track that Frankie Cutlass had big was the Puerto Rico track, Puerto Rico, oh! On the fourth interview on the tape, he talks about a song that he produced for Luke called Bust a Nut, featuring the Notorious B.I.G., and there's even stuff online that you could find of him talking about that time. Shout out to the infamous Armadeus, who has a really dope, in-depth interview with Frankie Cutlass that y'all could peep, and I'm gonna put a link to that in the description box. So the other interviews, he also taps into the business side of things, and then at the last interview on this tape sampler is him talking about the second single off of this Politics and Bullshit album, and that is the Cypher, featuring Juice Crew members Craig G, Roxanne Shante, Big Daddy Kane, and Biz Marquee. really dope, stellar joint, and the sample was immediately noticeable to me because I was a fan of what Ice Cube, WC, and Mac 10 did with that same sample for a song called West Up, and it might have just been coincidence on that front. The first single for this album, Politics and Bullshit, is featured on this snippet tape, and it's You and You and You, featuring June Lover of GP Woo, Sadat X, and Redman. All three of them kick nasty, dope fucking verses, and you can check out the video on YouTube because it had an official video. I'm gonna put a link for that in the description box. Shout out to Sadat X because I ended up coming across the vinyl for You and You and You, and that shit was a blessing because I had a song that I had developed called Blue Collar MC. It was one of my first songs that like I completed as a solo artist. This shit was on my MySpace page, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. But I ran into the vinyl of this single, copped it, and it was dope to do that because Sadat X has this line where he says the blue collar MC with the blue collar job, and that's what I ended up sampling for the hook on the Blue Collar MC joint, which I never put that song on an official album, but maybe I'll put it up on my YouTube one of these days. I just gotta find the final mastered version somewhere on my hard drive. Anyways, moving on from that, the third single from this album, well, I don't know if it was the third single. I want to say it was, but it was Feel the Vibe. Feel the Vibe is a fucking banger. You're talking about a joint that has Rampage, the Last Boy Scout, DJ Doo-Wop, Heltah, Skeltah, and all of them rip this shit. The hook is phenomenal. The beat is crazy as hell. And Rampage just starts it off like, you know, crazy verse from Rampage. I just don't understand what was his beef with dudes making minimum wages. You know what I mean? You know, as a jit listening to that when I coming up, I was like, yo, what do you got against us? You know what I mean? What we do to this guy? But dope track nonetheless. And matter of fact, Rampage just performed here in Miami at a spot called Tomorrowland. Rip that shit. The only thing I wish about that performance is that he would have kicked that verse from Feel the Vibe. Shout out to Rampage because at the Tomorrowland show, I actually got to chop it up with him real quick, and I asked him about his verse from Feel the Vibe and why he mentioned KRS. Was there any friction there? He basically let me know that him and KRS was real cool, and he had nothing but an infinite amount of respect for the cat, but he wanted to let dudes know that he's just as live as KRS-One when it comes to the mic. Shout out to DJ Epps, Tito Love, Ben Hop, anybody or everybody that was a part of bringing Rampage to Tomorrowland in Miami this past Saturday on some real hip hop shit. Like this album, it's got 11 tracks, bro, but like I'm counting at least 4 or 5 videos because Boriquas on the set with Doo-Wop and Fat Joe has a video. You and You, like I said, has a video. Feel the Vibe has a video. Cypher has a video. So a lot of videos on this album, man, and rightfully so. This album is fucking crazy. One of the joints that stands out to me, the Mobb Deep featuring Kool G Rap and M.O.P., a song called Know the Game, is fire shit right there. I don't know why Frankie Cutlass wasn't more sought after as a producer, because the beats that he made for this album is crazy. You would think that this guy would have been as sought after as like an Alchemist, you know, in that era especially, you know. One of the unsung cats on the Politics and Bullshit album was Rock City O. He had a song called Games People Play. I wanna know. I always loved that joint, and he was the biggest mystery to me. I tried to track this guy down so many times, and then finally, like about 2 years ago, I finally tracked him down on IG. Hopefully his page is still active because I'm gonna tag him up on this post. He actually sent me some like unreleased tracks from him that was just as fire as that Rock City O Games track on this Politics and Bullshit album. You know, this came out on Relativity Records, so some of these cats that are on these tracks make sense because they were label mates. But Frankie Cutlass was somebody that obviously was able to network in New York at a time where hip hop was at its prime. We're talking about 96 golden era, man. And to get these features must have not been an easy feat. So shout out to Frankie Cutlass for these beats, these gems, and getting these artists together, because a lot of these collabs that he put together were collabs that we haven't seen to this day. I mean, Pay Your Dues with Keith Murray, Busta Rhymes, and Cocoa Brothers, aka Smith and Wesson. To this day, we haven't gotten a collab like that, man. And the MOP joint with Mobb Deep and Cool G Rap. I mean, yo, this album is really fire. It's sad that it's not up on the streaming platforms, but you definitely can find it on YouTube. I hope I sparked some curiosity in you if you haven't checked out this album, because you should not be sleeping on it. Even the way the album opens up, Frankie Cutlass reprises his Puerto Rico track, gives it a different feel, more of a boom bap feel to the beat. That shit is still riding to me, still fire joint. The beats on this album are so polished. Dare I say, I feel had Frankie Cutlass continued on this path, he would have easily been the Puerto Rican Dr. Dre. That's how polished some of these beats are. One of the last things I want to say about the album that I enjoyed was the album artwork, was it being so studio heavy. And I even find it ironic that I had to fix this tape, and if you look at the CD sleeve, it's got audio tape sprawled out everywhere. It's one of them things that just, you know, makes a Chico like me think for a second, you know. May not mean anything at all. Whatever. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Shout out to all my listeners out there. Truly appreciate y'all. It's Orion, aka Brass Ball, signing out. Peace.